or you can just type super store.
All right, so we're going to continue from where we stopped.
Just super
Um,
store.
Last time we talked about how to work with components. So today we're going to continue from there by following the next stuff, which is
Yeah,
this
I'm going to survive that.
component props.
On
I've talked
tomorrow,
about it, but I've not really talked about the children. So I'm going to start from that side. And from there, I will move to this events and states like that.
more than
So,
looking at
what is component props? I told you that props is just properties that you are sending down to your component. And with that properties, you can make your component to behave in a different way. So, for example, here, I have a UI, and this UI element let's just say we have two sections on the page, and these two sections are using the same kind of a layout. The difference between them is the color, maybe like the background color. So I don't need to start creating two components for each one of them. What I will just do is to have a single component, but I can send down a particular property to that component to differentiate that, okay, this is the first one and this is the second one. Even if the content are different too, what you can do is just to send down the this thing down there, send down the details that you want to display, and this thing is going to pick it up based on whatever props or the value you are sending to the props there like that. So we're going to continue from there today, because the only thing we just did is to send down some basic properties down to the component, and we are able to display. But you can actually send down another component into the other one there. So you have a parent component, but inside the parent component, how do we get all the items that you are passing into it? Don't forget, everything that we have here is just a JSS element. So you now imagine we are displaying a component, but inside the component we are passing another element inside, and the component can be any GSX element that you want. And what am I saying here? Let me put this in a practice. So let me create a component here. So const, what can I call it? So header like this. So the component is going to be header. The component is going to be header like this. So return, what am I returning? I'm just returning the div for now, like this. So, and inside this we have my h1, which is going to be the, let's just say, logo like this, and after this one I'm going to have the nav like this. But the content of the nav will be coming from the user of this component, because whatever you want to use for whatever time you want to use this header, you can use it at the top of the page, and at the same time we can use it at the bottom of the page. But the nav that is going to be at the top is different from the nav at the bottom. But both of them have the same layout, but the content inside them is quite different. So we can actually receive all the information that we want to display inside this nav there. One way of doing it is by using what we talked about last time, which is by sending down the props. So here I'm going to receive the props like that, and inside these props, anytime there is a props of items, but I've not really talked about how you can look through your array in your component like that. So for now, I will just say what I will just do is just to do this simple stuff. So props, then dot items like this. So whatever you send as items is going to display everything here like that. Props, well, it's on props like this. So, and if I save it, we should kind of have the stuff there like that. So why am I? Oh, sorry. I'm using double collimate as a when you work with too much language. So you start so like this. Once I pass this items inside it now, nothing is going to work here because we've not really used the component. So where do we want to use the component? We want to use the component at the top here. So let me put it before this div. So I can call my header, and here I can pass the items that I want to send down into it like that. So what items did I want to send? I don't want to send testing header like this. So close it, and if I save these items on the page, we should kind of have our, as you can see, we have the header, and whenever we are sending down through this props, we are getting it inside this place. No, and we don't expect that particular one that I send out. And again, I can reuse this component down here or in any other places on the page. So I want to put it at the bottom part of the site here. But this one now is going to be testing bottom header like this. And if I save it, you see that we have the same component, but it's having a different content like this. So it's simple when you need to pass like basic stuff into your component. You can quickly use this type of props. But what if you want to do something like this? For example, here, what if you want to do something like this? I have my components. So I'm going to have my component was run. So I'm going to have my component. But right now, instead of sending the props from here, I'm passing everything directly inside the opening and the closing of my. So here I'm going to have the A like this. So the first link, this is going to be home. So the next one, this is going to be products. So the next one, this is going to be pricing, and the next one, this is going to be about. So about like this. So everything that I'm passing to this component, I want to display it inside this nav here. So how do you get everything you are sending to your component here? This is where the children props comes in. So the children props is what you can use to get all the info that they pass in between the opening and the closing tag of your component. Because this one here, what we did here is that we received the stuff through this items props, but we don't want to do that. We want to pass some other element because the thing is complex. You can pass it like this too, but this thing is really complex. I don't want to be passing it in this way. I want to pass it in between the opening and the closing tag of your component. So everything you are passing here too, they are props, just that you are doing it in another way, and we have a special name for this particular props. When you are sending the props like this, or you are sending any props like this, you are the one that will give you the name. For any of the props that you are sending in between this your component like this is what we call the children prop. So it's kind of like a special to React. Whatever you pass in between your tag here, React is going to send them down as a children props. So on your props, there's going to be a particular stuff there. So let me open the console so that you can see what is going on there like that. So if you try it for the first one, then it's not going to show anything for the children. But that thing, React will send it when there is a element that or anything that you are passing inside that component there like that. So these props, if I console log it out, you are going to see the two header that we are not sending anything in between. They will not have that property, but the one that we are sending something inside it, and it's going to bring that property out there. So if I just print out the prop so that you see everything that is sending, and as you can see, the first one, which is this one that I have testing header, the only thing you just add there is items with the value that you pass. Again, too, it's going to run it twice. So if you check the other one, can you now see the other one? The other one is now having children. So anything that you send to your component through this way, whatever you are sending here, React is going to send them as children. And children is just array of each one of them that is here. So this is this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. So and as you can see that I said there are 4 items because each one of them is going to be items under the children. As you can see under the children, it knows about the first one, it knows about the second item, which is this one, it knows about the third one, and the fourth one here. So how do you now display it on the screen? Luckily for us, React knows how to work with array. So anytime you send something down as array to React there, if it's something they can render, to just render it for you. You don't even need to specify how it's going to render the stuff. If it's just a basic stuff like maybe number, it is string, anything that React can render, you cannot render object. So you have to tell it how to render object. So if it is any JSS element or any JSS expression, if you are sending them down to your component as array, it knows how to render that array for you. To remove the array and combine everything together as a string. So the same thing here too now. We are sending down this children, which is array of 4 items. And what is the array there? What are the values? These are the values there. So how do you use it? Inside this your component there, you can have access to the children. And here now, instead of using item, you can just put children like this without even telling it how to render children. Because anytime you pass array to, anytime you are trying to render array in your React project there, what it's going to do is that it will convert everything to string. If it's something that is related to string, it will remove the array and it will render all the items for you one by one wherever you place that item. So which means here now, if I save it, you see that that second one now, we should have all the items that we can. You see now? So if I scroll down, let me remove this one here. As you can see, it rendered everything as if you type them side by side like that. And what it's doing is that anything you send down to your component as array, it will strip off the array and you just join everything together and it will render it for you. Later on, you can actually render it the way you want, but for now, this is how it works. And if you check it on the page, you see that the way you type everything from here, that same way React is going to put everything in your HTML. Can you see? So we have the A, which is this first one, this is the second A, the third one, and the fourth one. But the major thing here is that I'm talking about the props for children. So children props will be generated for you automatically anytime you put any content in between the opening and the closing tag of your component. So if you don't open it, you will not see it. So if you don't pass anything inside your component, you are not going to see anything like children. So if I save it and go back to the console here like that, so as you can see, nothing is there for that one because it did not pass anything. But once you pass something in between the opening and the closing there, React will generate that children automatically. It will generate that particular items automatically there for you like that. And if I say this one now, and if you load it, you see that there is not going to be children with the number of whatever items you have inside like this. And this is what you can use later on to couple all your UI together. So you know you are going to, for example, you are creating a button component. But inside the button, you know, you can either receive a text or you can receive other UI inside, like maybe image or the icon and the text. So you can couple all these things together, and that your component that will worry about the entire box there, like the color of the box, the layout of whatever that is inside it. If it is one item, it will just display an item. If it is two items, it will place inside, and so forth like that. But what item do you want to place inside? So that one now is whatever you pass it to the component, then it's going to send it down as children. And anywhere you want the stuff to appear, you just call that your children from the props like that. But I will not be doing like this. I don't want to be doing this props like. You can actually destructure what is coming back there. So instead of you typing props, you can actually destructure. And this what I'm doing is that, okay, I know that we have to be sending something out to me, and I know that it's going to be object. So inside that object, I'm picking a particular value out of. You know, inside this object, we have items, and we're going to have children if it is available. So here now, what I'm now doing is that I'm destructuring children and I'm destructuring items. So instead of me using props of items, props of children, I've already taken whatever I need. So here now, I don't need to be doing anything like this. I just need to use the children directly. So here too, there is nothing like props again. So what you have is just your normal children. Now you always see your code, you always do something like this a lot because you already know what is coming there into your component. So you just destructure the props and you pick with the one you need like that. So the items, so if you need it, you can display it anywhere you want it to be. For example, down here, I want to put the item there. So it means if you supply the items, it will put it here. If you don't supply it, then nothing will be there because it will be undefined. And you know that undefined don't show on the screen because I mentioned all the things that you can render on your page there like that. And as you can see here, if you go up, as you can see, it's rendering this text which is here, but there is no children. And since there is no children, the nav is going to be empty. The nav is there, not that it's not there, it's there, but because nothing is inside it, that's why it's not showing. Can you see that it is there? Because that nav will always be there. The only thing that will not be there is these children. And since it's not having children, nothing will be inside it like that. The same thing too with the one that actually have children. So the one that have children too, here, it will have all those items inside it now, but the div too is not showing. Why is the div not showing? Because we are not sending down the item. But that doesn't mean the div is not in the code. The div is actually in the code, just that there's no content inside the div. As you can see it here. When there's no content, it will just be empty like that. So they will not take any space. As you can see, the height is 0 because they depend on the content that is inside them to generate the height like that. But the major thing is here is that anything that you send down into your component, whatever you send down in between the opening and the closing tag, the React is going to send them as children props. But if you want to send anything yourself, you can still send it. Not because you are using children, you cannot send. You can still send the item that you want. So you can use both of them. But React is flexible, and since it's flexible, you can send the one in this form, and you can still send the other one in this form. For example, now you want your button to be able to display some item inside it, and at the same time too, you still want to use some other props to control the style or the color. Even though this thing is going to be putting two items inside it, I do want the color to be this particular one, and you can use this thing like that. For example, here I will just, since it's just normal text, I don't need to put it inside curly brace like that, because I'm not doing any JavaScript stuff. If you just plain stuff, it's just string that you are passing down into that stuff, just type codes and you type whatever you need to pass. But if it's something that needs to be evaluated first before it send it down, then you need to use the curly brace. So the curly brace I'm using here is useless because I can just pass it directly without doing it. But the thing here is that this one, you have to use it anytime you are passing any JavaScript stuff. But since I'm not passing any JavaScript, it's just normal text that I want to pass. Just put the code there and it will still work. So here, my children props, are both like that. So if I save it, you see that it's not having that item there like that. So whatever you set to the item, it will send it to this one. Whatever you are putting in between, then it will use children for that. But the children, you don't create it yourself. That is the one managing the children for you like that. And you're going to be seeing this in a lot later on when we are building components to wrap a lot of things together like that. So this thing is very important too, because you are going to be coupling all your component, and one component will be inside another component, just like what we did right now. See that the app, this is the app component that we are rendering on the page, but inside that one we are putting all the other components too inside it. Again, too, when you are creating your own custom component, you have a button component, but inside the button component you can pass down some other component into it too, or any element that you are passing in between the opening and the closing tag of your component there like that. And how do you get it? You get it through the props there, and this thing is special props, which is the children, and that children is always array of all the items that you pass into this one. And once you render the children there, React knows how to deal with the array on the page. And what did I mean by the React knows how to deal with this thing on the page? What is going on there is that anytime you try to render array, no, don't forget, we're able to render this 2 plus 7 that time. We're able to render 2. We're able to render string. Again, too, it can render your array here. So just pass anything you want into the array. But by the time you get to the browser, it will convert everything to just one item. So it will not that it will render array, it will just render all of them combined together. It will join them together as a string, and it will now put it on the page. And if I save it now, as you can see, it's just combining them together. What we type is this 2, 5, 8. But by the time you get to the screen, it joins everything together. And this is the reason why we are able to do something like that here. We're able to render the children without doing any special work. Because once you see it is array, it will just jam back everything together and send it to the browser there. And that's how this thing works. Okay. Alright, so let's continue. We're going to move into this events and states there like that. So for this one too, I'm going to create a separate component for that. So I'm going to call it const event and state. So that's the name of my component, and this component is going to receive anything. By default, it's going to render div. Is that your div? So it's going to render div. Inside the div, we are going to have h1, and inside the h1 is going to be events and states in React like that. After this, I'm going to have a paragraph with the lorem 25 by default, generate 25 words. Then after this paragraph, I'm going to have another div again, and inside this div I'm going to have two buttons. So we're going to have two buttons. The first button is going to be plus, and the second button is going to be minus. And what are we doing with this button? So inside this place we are going to have h3, which is going to be 0 by default, but this is not the way it's going to be. But I'm going to start with this basic stuff like this. So we need to use this component so that we can see the results on the page. So let me comment out this one, and again too, let me comment out everything that is already on this page. So click here to edit, remove this button like that, so that we can have fewer text on the screen. So yeah, we only have these two. Then after this one, I'm going to render my components down here, so which is going to be this event and states like that. So if I save it, we should have the content of that particular. As you can see, we have the event and state, and we have the text, and we have this two button. Where is the styling coming from? There's some style that have been done on this page that we did not remove, so it will still have the style like that. So and what do we want to do? What we want to do is that anytime we click on this button, we want this value to increase by 1, and anytime you click on this thing, we want this value to decrease by 1. So this click that is here, this is event, because you are attaching the click event on the element. But you know, in JavaScript, when you are dealing with your normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you know, before you can attach event, the first thing you have to do is to target the element. Then after you target the element, you now add event listener there. Then after you add the event listener, you pass the callbacks that you want to run anytime something happens, in anytime the event is fired there like that. But yeah, you don't need to start targeting any element because you already have the element. Doesn't concern you about that. Okay, I need to type by doing the query selector. You don't need to do any query selector. Whatever you want to do with the element, do it here. React knows how to undo everything behind the scene for you like that. And what did I want to do? So this is my callback. So this is going to be our callback now, the function you want to run. So I'm going to create a function here, and the function is going to be increment like this. So this is the function. The function is going to receive the event that occur like that. And what is it going to do? What this thing is just going to do is just to console log first the event that occur like that. It's not important that you separate it to a different function like this, but for the start there, I'm just going to separate them. So I'm going to have decrement too like this. So this one too is another function that I want to run for the second button. So the first one is the function to run when you click on plus. The second one is the function to run when you click on minus. So for this one too, I'm going to console log out whatever the E, which is the events that occur there like that. So but I did not receive the E, so let me receive the E. So now how do we wire this function into all these buttons that anytime they are click on, we want to run it? So you know, if you want to do it in a normal JavaScript, what you do is to do the element, then add event listener like this. Is how you are going to do it. Then the first thing you pass is the type of the event, and the second thing you now pass is the function you want to run. So here now it's going to be this increment. So this is how you do it in a normal JavaScript like that. So we have the function, then we have the event listener on the element. What type of event? Click. And which function do you want to run? Increment. The same thing too for the other one. You just add it, so which is going to be the element 2, which is that our minus. Then here you are going to have the decrement. So this is how you are going to do it in the normal JavaScript. But here now, you know, you don't need to start doing all this unnecessary stuff because you already have access to the element here. The only thing you just need to do is to tell it the event that you want to listen for, and you pass the function you want to run anytime that event occur. And how do you do it on your element? To do it, you go to that element, you start with the on, then followed by the event that you want to listen for. So since you want to listen for click, it's going to be on click. But here, look at the way it's been typed. So on, then whatever that follows it is going to be capitalized. And look at it. So when you're listening for the click, this is what you do. And what you need to pass into it is the function that you want to run when this event occur like that. And what do you want to call here? We want to call the increment function like that. Please, you are not to call it, as you can see, I'm not putting bracket, just like the way it is here. We did not put any bracket. Is this add event listener that will call it? The same thing too, is this on click that will call this function anytime the event occurred. So we can do it for the second one too, which is going to be the same on click, because you are listening for click event. But this one now, the function is going to call is decrement like that, and you are done. You just add events on this your element, even though they are not going to be doing anything yet. What they will just be doing is to console log out the events that occur. But this is the basic stuff about the event. And if you go to the page and we open our console log, the console there, if you open the console, let me go to the console side. So if I go to the console side there, so here if I click on plus, can you see it brings out the event? But if you look at the name of the event here, you see that it's different from the normal event you get from JavaScript. If it is JavaScript, what you are going to get here is just pointer event. But if you see the type of event we get here is a synthetic based event, because this is React is doing some magic behind the scene, and you are not the one that is attaching the event directly to the element. You're only just to pass it to the JSX. React knows how to create all those magic behind the scene. So, and as you can see, what is giving us is this synthetic, which look like your normal this thing. But if you look at it, can you see it's giving us this native event. On this native event, that's where you're going to have the event occur. And again, too, everything that you're used to, which is the target, you see that you have it here too, like that. And as you can see, it has some other things that you will not get on your normal JavaScript code. But the major thing here is that this one too works just like the way you will be dealing with your normal JavaScript. That is target, and the target is any element that trigger the event like that. So, but right now we don't need the E. What we actually need is that we need a variable, and that variable we want to change its value from a particular value to another one based on whether you click on increment or you click on the decrement. So how do we create a value? You might be tempted to just quickly do something like this. For example, here, let me just do let count is 0. So now where do we want to display the count? So instead of it, the 0 that we put here, we want to replace it with a variable. So this is going to be count like this. So which means here counts like this. So now if I save it, you see that on the screen we still have 0 like that, because that's the value. But now if I change it, you see that it will update the value. So if I put 4, you see that it will change to 4. But we don't want to be changing it like that. We want to be clicking this our button to perform the store. So if I click on the plus, it will change this 4 to 5. If I click again, it will change 5 to 6. Then if I click again, it will change 6. But it will never work like this. The way we just declare a variable like this. You can't just declare a variable like this and you change something about it, and you now expect that React is going to give you the new value, because it doesn't work like that based on the way the React is running your function here. And what is going on is that anytime you change something inside your component, React is going to re-render that component. So which means it's going to call it again. And when you call it again, it will be seen that you are setting count back to 4, not that the new value that you change. Because now, how do you change the value? What I can just do is to set count then plus equals to 1 like this. So which means whatever that is inside the count before, increase it by 1. That line that I just typed is just the same thing as you saying count is the same thing as a count plus 1. That line is the same thing. So whatever that is inside the count before, increase it by 1. The same thing too, whatever that is inside the count before, decrease it by 1. But this thing will never work. It will change, the value will change. But when the React is that there is something inside your component that changed, it needs to display the new value. So when it now wants to display the new value, it will call your component again. And when you call the component again, it will start running from the beginning. And when it starts running from the beginning, it will see that the value is 4. So it will just set it to 4. You will never see any changes. As you can see, when the value changes, React will try to re-render the component. And when it's trying to re-render the component, it seems that you are declaring the variable to be this 4. So it will not change. Here it's actually changing. For example, if I console log out here, so if I console log out the count like that, so you see that the thing will quickly change, but you might not even see it there too, because depending on the speed of the system like that. But the major thing here is that anytime you have a variable, and that variable you want to keep the state of that variable when your component render from one, or when your component transition from one value to another one, you need to use what we refer to as state. State is the one that will have the record of your value. So if you change that value, it will still keep whatever the new changes you have inside the value. Not that when you change the value, because we actually change the value here. So if I click on the plus like this, can you see that it actually changed to 5? But here it's still showing 4. Why is it showing 4? It's because here, when you change anything in your component, the component will need to re-render. Re-render means it needs to run that function again. And when they run this when they call this your component again, you know the new one now is now saying count as 4. So since you see count as 4, there is no way to be displaying 5 on this. But the time you are actually changing it, it changed. The stuff changed at the time you are doing the changes. But once the thing stop, once the thing leave here and the component call again, you will not see anything on the screen like that. And as you can see, as I'm calling this in, your component is not even, see that it's changing, but this one is still not displaying the value. Why is it not displaying the value? Because the component doesn't know about this your variable at all, that it is even changing. See that it's changing in the console log. The thing is working as expected in the console log, but it's not changing in the UI like that. So, and that's where state comes in. So with the help of state now, you can now talk to the AI that, okay, this value I've changed it to, I want you to re-render my component so that it can see the new changes. So, and how do you do that? Is by using what this React is giving us here, which is known as state. And to create a state, you are going to create a variable, and that variable now is different from the normal this thing that you know before. So it's going to be like this, and you're going to have this use state. So when you want to do it now, this is how to do it. So this use state is a function, and this function here is going to return some goodies for you that you can use to see the value and to modify the value. So look at it now. As you can see, I created this array here. So this array is going to have value, and it's going to have setter. We normally call this one setter. So what you are getting from here is what you are going to be using to get the value. So this one will be giving you the value, or we call this one getter. Let me name it getter like this. So this is a getter, and this is a setter, and this is your initial value. So whatever you pass here, that's the default value before you start changing the value from one to another value there like that. So this getter will give you this initial value by default, but once you change the value by using this setter, it will replace this initial value with the new value that you put there like that. So this is how you can use a state. So you have a state where here you are going to declare your variable, but this one is a getter, while this one is a setter. But we have the pattern we use to declare our variable. So here now, instead of declaring the variable like this, what you use is your state. So, and in the state, it's going to be like this. So const count like that, and you are going to have set count. Look at the way I call this stuff, because this thing is very important though. It's not much I use the name like that, but that you are going to be using a lot of states. And how do you differentiate one state from the other one? You always use the name, and again the setter too will be set whatever the name you have there. So if this one is age, then this one is going to be set age. If this one is username, then this one is going to be set username, and so forth like that, depending on. So here you are going to pass the default value. What's our default value? That's a 0 like that. So again, the way you are setting your count here, that's not the same way you are going to be setting count again. You are going to use this setter. And what is this setter here? The setter is a function that you can use to update your state. So here now, in order for you to update your state, you are not going to be doing it like this again. What you are going to do is to call this set state, and this set state you pass whatever new value that you want. So here we are creating a state with a default value of 0. So this count by default it will be 0. But anytime you call this set count and you pass any value inside, it will change the value that is here to that new value. So here now, what I want to do, I want to do count plus 1. So whatever that is inside the count before, I'm increasing it by 1, and I'm now putting it inside this set. Don't forget, the set count is what I can update the state. You can't just update the state by using this one again. This one is only giving you the value. It's not setting the value. If you want to set the value, you have to call this 1 here. So whatever you pass into it, that's what is going to replace as your name value. So for example here now, if I click on this one, I want it to send the value to 5, and if I click on this one here, I want it to set the count to 4. So now if I save it, this is what we call state here now. And now React, anytime you call this function here, React will know that something has changed in your component. It needs to re-render so that you can get the new value. So now if I click on this one, so let me close this one here now. So if I click on this one, what do we want to do? We want to set the value of count to 5. And anytime you click on the increment here, we want to set the value of count to 4. This count is what you are going to be using to receive the value that is coming from your set. Then the second one is what you are going to be using to replace whatever that is inside the state. So here now if I click on the plus, you see that it changes the value to 5, and you can see that the value updated. What happened here is that anytime you use this set count, React will see that you update your state, and since you update state, React needs to re-render this our component so that you can now see the new changes in this. But this thing is going to be fast. You will not even notice when you just see that the value is changing. But what is happening is that React is actually re-rendering your component, like it's calling your component again to render it like that. And if I click on the minus here, you see that it changes the value to 4. But this is not working the way we want it to work, because if I click on it again, it will only set it to 4. But you know the 4 is still the same thing, so your eyes will not see that it's actually changing. But that's not what we want. What we actually want here is that whatever that is there before, we want to add 1. So if the count is 2, it will be 2 plus 1, that's 3. Then that 3 is what is now going to set as the new value. The same thing here too. Whatever that is inside the count before, we want to increase it. No, we want to decrease it by 1. So now if I save it and go to the page now, you see that this thing will now start working the way we want it to be there, like that. So now if I click plus, as you can see, it goes to 5, 6, 7, 8. If I click minus, then it's going to reduce the stuff by 1 like this. So this is just the basic stuff about state, and this is what you always use anytime you want your components to have a change in its value, and you can see the changes inside the browser. So you need to use a state, because the state is what is going to trigger React to re-render your component so that you can see the updated value in this page like that. For example here too, we can use this in again. So we can use this in again now. So I want to have colors like this, and inside this color, don't let me do advanced stuff like that. So don't let me do advanced stuff. Let me do the basic thing. So here we're going to have a username like this. So we're going to have a user. What's wrong with this? Username. Don't forget, whatever the name you are using here, you need to use set that particular variable. No, we are creating a variable username, but you know for the setter, it will not be set username. Please always do it like this, so that you know that anytime you are calling your setter, you know what is setting. But if you just say set A, set B, later when your program is really large, you will not really know what that set A is doing, or what set B is doing, or whatever. So when you see set username, you already know that it's going to modify a state username. When you see set count, you know that it's going to modify a variable count like that. So this is the pattern we use. So it's not a must. You can call it anything, but this is the pattern, and you only do it like the other people do it too, like that. So what we want to do here, I want to add these states like this, and by default it's going to be empty. So what do you want to do? Whatever that is inside this state, I want to have a box to be displaying it here like that. So what do you want to do? Inside this place like this, I'm going to have another div. Inside this div, I'm going to have inputs like this, inputs like this, which is going to be type text in this way. And after this one, I'm going to have this p, and inside this p, that's where I want to display whatever it is username. So like this. So here I'm just going to do hello, and what am I greeting there like that? I'm greeting username. What's this? Don't slow down. So we are going to have the username, and once this thing is out, VS Code, what's going on? So like this, But this username now is whatever we have inside that state. But we want this thing to be dynamic. So which means whatever we type inside this box, that's what is going to save inside the username. By now you can do all of them because we already talked about event like that, but you just need to attach the correct event on your elements like that. What's wrong with this username like this? So as you can see, it's going to have hello, but nothing is here because by default here our username is just this empty string. But here now, if I put raster here, you see that it's going to show raster. But we don't want it to be like this. Whatever I type from the box here, that's what I want to see here. So how do we do it? We just need to create a function that's going to update our state too, like that. And I can do it directly. So what I want to do here is that whatever you type from the box here, I want to get it and I want to put it at that place. So how do we create it? So let me just create a function. So update name like this. So this function here is going to receive the E, which is the event that occur. But you know that on the event, we are going to get the target. So I want to update my username. So set user name like this is going to be e.target then dot value like that. So and what do I want to do now? I can just come here on this my input. We can add the event that we need, and the event we need there is on change. So when you want to receive a changes in your input like that and you want to update it into your state, the event you need to listen for is on change. So on change will fire anytime you change anything inside your input like that. So React will fire it. And what do we want to run? We want to run update name. Don't forget, you don't put the bracket there. Is event when the event occurs, that's when it's going to be called. And if I save it like this, so I can go inside this box now. Testing, can you see? So testing my name here and here. Those are updating the state. So and React, when you update the state, it will re-render the component. And once you re-render the component, this one will see the new value. And once you see the new value, it will display. But because this thing is really fast, your browser is fast or your system is fast, you will see this thing instantly as you are doing the stuff like that. So what it's doing is that as you are typing, it's calling this component again and again and again and again and again. And you can see it in action here when I console log anything out there. So for example here, I can console log out something here like that. For example here, I'm going to console log out inside the component like this. So I will just type this in and open the console log or open the console there, and on the console you see that it will keep outputting this message every time you perform any state change. So if I click on the plus, can you see that it's called this inside component? Because anytime you change anything with your state, it will re-render the component. And once you re-render the component, it will go through every of the code again. And it will not get here. You see that if you are console log out, it will do the console log. And that's the reason why that time, it's not working the way it's supposed to work. If I click on minus, you see that it will only do the same thing again and again. It's calling your component so that you can see the new value. So once the value changes, so in order for the component to see the new value, it needs to call it again. And once you call it again, everything that is inside your component, it will run it. So anything that is not changing, your eyes will not even see that it's changing at all. Like that.